So
Irene.
thanks for coming to talk to me today. We're going to be talking about the next part of the assessment policy, and it's about criterion referenced assessment. So I understand from that it means we should be using rubrics. Is that correct?
Not totally. A lot of people use a marking guide.
Okay.
The key thing is in the word criterion, as long as you're marking against criteria rather than comparing students to each other.
Okay, so what do you mean by, what's the difference between a marking guide and a rubric?
So a marking guide would be a list of criteria with marks attached generally, and a rubric has gradations in that marking guide with descriptions for each criteria.
Okay, so a marking guide, for example, might be then I've got an executive summary, I've got an introduction, I've got a methodology, I've got a results, and I allot marks for each one of them. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And a rubric would then be?
So a rubric then you would divide it into an excellent executive summary, a passable executive summary, an executive summary that needs improvement, for example.
And then each of them would have a description of what an excellent was.
Yes.
So,
and then
less and then nothing. Okay.
Yes.
Well, hopefully not nothing, but all right, good. So rubrics then obviously have more detail and more information. So I guess they're more transparent for the students.
Absolutely, and the literature in higher education in the last 20 years has said that's really important for the students to be able to know what is expected of them.
It's quite a lot of work though, I guess, to write a rubric.
It is up front, but it does save you time long term, and it saves the marking team time as well.
Okay, so how does it save time long term?
So I think you'll find a lot of lecturers would agree that they spend a lot of time making the same comments over and over again.
Yep.
So what the rubric does is you've got all those ideas in the rubric, so you only need to highlight, tick or comment on things that aren't in the rubric.
So it's not just then for marking, it's also a feedback tool.
It's a very good feedback tool for students because they know where they have to go. So it's feed forward as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if you give the rubric with the assignment, it also sort of tells them what to do. You're shaping their behaviour by using that rubric.
You are. And it stops a lot of those questions. I'm not sure what you mean by an executive summary.
But a lot of people I talk to are concerned that giving rubrics are giving the answers. Do you think that that's an issue or not really?
No, you're not telling the students what they have to put in the rubric, in the executive summary, for example. What you are doing is saying, this is what I mean by quality.
Right. So it's not a description of content, it's a description of quality.
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm going to then sit down and write a rubric, where do I start?
I would start with a marking guide. And then I would add a single point rubric to it, which means all the information you've got in your head that you use to mark the assignment in the marking guide, summarise that and put that into the rubric.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, even if we're using a marking guide, we do apply what we think is a good or an excellent piece of work. We do apply some ideas from our mind to that mark.
We do.
So I guess a rubric is just surfacing them and articulating them for students to read.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean that's not so bad. So we can fill in a middle column with
You can fill in the middle column and you can put comments on either side.
Okay.
Or you can have, you can write a rubric which has, say, 3 areas. Excellent, passable, needs improvement.
Okay.
I would start with excellent because most people know what they're looking for.
Right.
Then write the opposite, which is needs improvement.
Right.
And then the one or ones in the middle are a little harder to do.
Yeah.
But
they're a little more subtle.
They're more subtle. Yeah.
So then how many do you suggest we should have in a rubric?
I would say the minimum would be 3.
Okay.
Most people can mark to that. It depends. Some people prefer to mark to 4 or even 5.
Okay.
So a lot of it depends on the paper, what you want. And
the number of markers, I guess, too.
It does, yeah. So the more markers, generally, probably the more
detail.
More detail.
Because you want to get rid of that subjectivity.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So does the university have any guides about whether excellent, where to place excellent on the rubric? Is it on this side or that side?
Not that I know of, but I know for assurance of learning they want the excellent on the right-hand side.
Oh, okay.
However, the few students I've talked to they said, why would we look at the bad first? So they want excellent on the left-hand side of the page.
Yeah, I'm not going to read how to do badly. I'm going to read how
to do well.
So there's no standardisation?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I would suggest, though, in a course or a program, you have a consistency for the students.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, thanks, Una.
You're welcome.